Welcome to Duo Chat with Brittany
and Cynthia, where we talk about drama shows
like Dawson's Creek, One Tree Hill, and more.
Hi everyone, I'm Brittany,
And I'm Cynthia.
and today we're talking about Season 1, Episode 9, titled With Arms Outstretched. Air date November 18th, 2003, and the synopsis is:
Tension rises now that the Ravens may get their first ever undefeated season, but instead Dan tells Nathan he doesn't go deep enough while ordering him to convince his mother he's not unhappy, thus blaming him for her punishing him by running Karen's place. He decides to take performance-enhancing drugs, which makes Coach throw him out of the game. When he tries to take the next step further while kissing Haley, she shows him the door. Brooke gets Lucas to go out as a reward for recommending a book he loves, and makes him drink and get attacked too, making Keith furious. At the game, Nathan's second dose lands him in the hospital. So Peyton walks up to Lucas at his locker. She asks him how his punching hand is. And he answers a lot better than the other guy's face. He asks how she's doing, and she says she just feels like an idiot. And then she asks Lucas if he's cool with them being friends.
friends.
Mm-hmm. Lucas says he is, and he adds he wasn't ready for all the Peyton Sawyer girlfriend drama anyhow.
But I think he was.
Yeah. But I guess this means that he's free to,
Date
start.
whoever.
Yeah. Like Brooke.
Do you
And
think Peyton said it because like a part of her wasn't ready in the moment, but also because there's Brooke?
yeah. And then Nathan stops Haley in the hallway. He leads her into the corner of a classroom, empty classroom has to be, to kiss her, and she pulls away, laughing, saying they can't kiss there right now at school. And then he just says that he'll kiss her later. And then in a meeting with the team, Whitey tells them when they leave the gym, he wants each of them to look at the sun because if they lose to Cove City on Friday, he can guarantee that the sun will not rise next day.
Well, what I found interesting was that he has never coached a team that has been undefeated.
Right.
I was like, wait a minute. So when he coached Dan for all those years, he was never undefeated. Like there was never a year that Dan was undefeated.
I guess.
Because we know what kind of happens like his senior year. You know what I mean? Because at some point, Whitey, remember, throws him out of the game. Or remember, because Dan and Whitey have their own version.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, but the years before, you know what I mean? You mean to tell me Dan's team, because Dan says he's the greatest thing ever. So it's like, you mean to tell me that the team Dan was on was never undefeated?
I guess.
Because Dan acts like they were undefeated when he was on the team. You know what I mean? Because he thinks whatever team he's on is undefeated. So I'm just like, I don't know. So when Whitey said that, I was like, what? Like, I don't understand because I thought Dan is the greatest thing.
Right.
Because he keeps telling Nathan that he's better than Nathan. So I'm just curious.
Right.
And given how Nathan is undefeated, it's just kind of, I don't know. I don't know if they forgot like storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
That Dan, I don't know, is better. I don't know. Or is it all in his head? I don't know. Because I feel like Whitey would have a comeback to Dan saying, you weren't the greatest. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
If it wasn't true. So I don't understand this, how just now they're undefeated
Right.
after all these years.
Mm-hmm. And then the team thought Whitey was kidding about them, but he yells that it wasn't a joke. And then he even said that the only two reasons that are separating them from greatness is number one, Cove City, and number two is them pointing out them. So yeah, he's putting a lot of pressure on them. And then Lucas catches Brooke in the hallway. He tells her that he has something for her. She says she knows he does, and then calls him gorgeous. And it's book that he mentioned before. He thought she would want to check it out.
She thought he was kidding. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
Because she was like the look on her face, like, oh, you were serious about reading.
Yeah. Yeah, and she says she'll check it out, but she supposes she could read the book too.
But it was funny because she was like, who knew reading could be so much fun?
Mm-hmm.
It was like, okay. Because she has a different thing in mind.
Yeah. And then at Karen's cafe, Dan walks in. He asks Deb if she needs some help with the coffee maker. She says
Okay,
everything is fine.
it was funny because he gets a cup of coffee
Mm-hmm.
and well, that's when he's asked if she needed help, and she was like stop it and stuff. And he's like, and she said that she's helping him or she's helping Karen,
Mm-hmm.
and he goes, "What, by ruining her business?"
Right.
And he said, "Because this cup of coffee is the worst coffee he's ever had."
Mm-hmm.
It was funny.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, don't you think that she would have practiced?
Yeah, I guess because it was so last minute. She didn't really have time to.
But also, how long has she? I mean, she's been doing it now for a few days, obviously, and nobody has said anything. Like, if it's really that bad,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, because people are still there, so obviously it's not that bad. He's just being dramatic,
Mm-hmm.
but it was
Yeah.
funny.
Mm-hmm. And he said that he just had
Oh,
a few hours. So he thought that she
yeah.
could use some help because she clearly does.
Um, but then it was sad because like it was, Dan's being funny, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's so sad because like, I mean, and you have to think about too, Dan has never walked into that coffee shop
Right.
when Karen was there. And it's like, there he is. And then it just goes sad because then Lucas walks in and sees not only Deb, as I think he knew he was going to, but he sees Dan. It's like his worst nightmare is coming true. He sees Dan in his mom's coffee shop.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like a part of me is like, why is Lucas there? Because like he's not there to see his mom. She's not there. And
Right. Maybe.
he doesn't work there. So it's not like he's
Mm-hmm.
going for a shift. And Keith
Yeah.
isn't there. So I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like, why is Lucas going to the coffee shop?
Maybe because of Haley or to grab some food really quick or something.
I was just like, because normally, obviously, he'd go because that's his only time to see his mom, really.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, she's not there.
Yeah.
But it was sad though, because he definitely doesn't want to see Dan, especially
Mm-hmm.
there. And he's probably thinking too, like what is going to happen next?
Yeah. That's exactly why he just walked out.
Yeah. And and then Deb feeling bad. It's like
Mm-hmm.
because I think Deb knows too, like he would have stayed if Dan wasn't there.
Right.
But I think it is cute too that Lucas could start bonding with Deb.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that would be cute.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, when Dan's away,
And then at Dan's house, Dan had made Nathan a sandwich, but not very good sandwich.
I thought he ordered it. I thought it
Oh, I
was
don't know.
takeout because he said he was going to
Oh,
start cooking once Deb came to her senses.
oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So they ordered it to go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I am wondering if he got it from the cafe
Right.
because I mean that was really the only place he went that we saw. But
Mm-hmm.
it was funny because um Nathan was like, I think I'm gonna invite Lucas over to spend the night. And Dan just like gives him that look. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
Dan, you knew that was coming.
Yeah.
Like Nathan has the best comebacks when it comes to Dan. And I'm just like, he had that one coming.
Yeah. And then Dan tells Nathan that his mom hasn't been herself lately, and it might help if Nathan tells her he's happy.
Then it was funny because Deb walks in and Nathan he goes, I'm happy, Mom.
Mm-hmm.
Dad loves me.
Yeah, in a very monotone voice.
I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I love him because, like, he knows exactly what to say.
Yeah. And then he walks out, but before that, he told Dan about the whole game and what he said.
Well, that's the only thing that Dan can come up with. And again, Dan makes sure he tells Nathan, you're not going to beat me.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was like, oh, like, I'm better than you. It's like, oh my God, Dan, shut the F up.
Right.
Um, so if Nathan actually beat Dan,
Mm-hmm.
don't you think Dan would hate him and then have more to say?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be, I'm so proud of you that you outscored me. It would be something else bad.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now it's, oh, you're like a little weakling, like I'm better than you. But then I feel like even if he did beat him, there would still be something else he'd say.
Right.
It can never just be, I'm proud of you
Mm-hmm.
and I love you. There's always something more.
And then after he had walked out, Deb asked him what that was about, and he answered that he was wondering where his mother was.
No, he wasn't. I mean, he
Yeah.
did ask where she was, but
Mm-hmm.
he just thought it was odd that,
Yeah, he was
all
just
of a
trying to get back at
sudden,
Deb. Mm-hmm.
yeah, like all of a sudden Deb is hanging out with Karen and running her cafe and stuff. That's all
Mm-hmm.
he was curious about.
Yeah.
But Dan has to make everybody feel bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Deb tells Deanna to start because she's tired and hungry, and Dan says, how about she just eats first and then argue? And Deb
And he
says, how
says,
about they
how
just
about you
not
not eat at
argue?
all? Well, then he says, how
Mm-hmm.
about we just not eat at all?
Yeah. Yes, it's always back and forth with them. And then Nathan is on the phone with Tim, who answers, what a baller. Nathan hilariously says, you know you're white, Tim, right? And then Nathan asks if Tim's brother is still dealing. Is this the only time we even hear that Tim has a brother? Of course, we never see him, but I forgot he even had a brother.
I don't know.
Yeah. So Tim asks, how is getting high going to help him with the game? And Nathan explains that he's not looking for weed, he wants performance enhancers. And then Tim asks if Nathan is sure about this. And Nathan
He
says
says, have you
yes.
seen well, no, he said, have you seen my dad?
Oh, yeah.
But well, it was funny because like Tim was obviously going through all the drugs, and Nathan's like, I don't want to be a druggie.
Right.
Like I just basically wanted the steroids. But it's like, yeah, but that is a form of a drug, Nathan.
Right. And then Lucas and Keith are at a pizza place because I guess they usually eat at the cafe, but since Karen's gone, there's even there. And then Keith asks if Lucas is going to avoid the cafe until his mom gets back. So too.
Well, it's
And Luke,
funny because Lucas goes, "Well, you don't like pizza?"
mm-hmm. Yeah, Keith admits that it's strange that Deb's there. Well, strange,
Well, who else was gonna run it?
right? Yeah, he says it's also gutsy of her because Dan's got to be giving her a lot of grief for that. And he is,
Hmm. Well, that's the thing is like Lucas doesn't look at the other side, but I mean, he's also a teenager, so why would he?
right?
Plus, he hates that side of that family. So, you know what I mean? Like anybody who's associated with Dan, he obviously doesn't like. So it's understandable.
And then Keith tells Lucas to give Deb a chance. And she's okay when you think about how she got pregnant in college. Her life
But
changed
then it
like
was,
Kieran's did.
yeah, but then Lucas is like, yeah, but why is she with him then? And he's like, probably for her son. And it's like, yeah, that's true. Because they're not happy. in their
Mhm.
marriage.
Right.
And it is weird because it seemed like they were somewhat happy a couple episodes ago, remember?
Mhm.
When she wanted to spend the night in the hotel. And then it's like, that was like one of the only times they were really happy.
Mhm.
And then that's it.
Right.
I mean, can you think of a time that they were happy
Mhm. Yeah.
as of yet? I'm
There
not
was
seeing
just
it.
a moment when she first was introduced, but that was really it.
Yeah, and again, that was like, and I think that's what's weird too, is like when they were introduced as this family,
Mhm.
they did kind of put as this is a happy mom and dad, and this is where Nathan comes from, and it's like, but then like the next episode, they're so hateful towards each other, and it's like, huh?
Mhm.
I'm like, what happened to this happy loving couple?
Yeah, because even Lucas acts away with Dempsey with Dan, and he
Yeah, and
says
then he
maybe
said it
she
for
wants
his
to
son.
protect Nathan. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, but so I'm just like, whatever. But I just, again, when they were, it wasn't like they were introduced as being miserable and that she's only there for her son.
Mhm.
Remember? Because
Right.
she told, who was it? Keith or Karen that he has um other qualities or something. Maybe Keith it was. I don't remember, but like why she's there. But then I don't know. It's like then the next episode, she's only there because of Nathan. I'm like, what? I thought he had other qualities that
Mhm.
you liked.
Yeah. And then Brooke walks up to Lucas, calling him handsome. She tells him there's 3 more chapters, and then he's all hers. And she walks
She's reading
away.
that. She's reading that pretty fast.
Yeah. I'm also wondering if how did she know that Lucas was even there at the pizza place? Unless she was convenient. Anyways, if it was perfect timing enough that
Conveniently.
yeah, if she was walking past the place and then she saw him that way. But yeah. And Keith asks what that was all about, and Lucas says it's nothing, and Keith disagrees. That was definitely something. And then in the locker room, that's where Tim gives Nathan the drugs. Tim
Mm.
again asks if Nathan's sure about this. Oh, yeah, and that's when he says, "Have you seen my dad?" And Tim gives him the rundown of the drug. There's steroids on speed or speed on steroids, basically said. And he tells Nathan to be careful. And Nathan says, whatever, gets him jacked for Cove City.
Oh,
And then,
Nathan.
yeah. And then, really, weirdly enough, Tim jokes that if Nathan had grow breasts from the drugs, that he gets the first peek. And then he tells Nathan, "You're welcome," and walks out. And Nathan takes a drug. And then during practice, Nathan makes a foul. Whitey calls him on it, and Nathan talks back to him. And he asks how he would like to call that a practice, you know, if he would like to call that a practice. Nathan yells at him, and then Whitey tells him to walk away, and he does. So he just has that outburst. I feel like that happened really quickly. I mean, I don't
Mhm.
know exactly the time that those would kick in, but it just seemed like that was really quick. And then
Unless they were
Haley,
already practicing for like an hour.
right, yeah. So I don't even know how long the practice would usually go for either.
I
And then
think a
Haley,
couple. I mean,
couple
they're in high
hours.
school, so probably a couple hours.
Okay. And then Haley finds Nathan in the hallway. She asks if he's okay. So she heard from Lucas that he had trouble at practice yesterday. So we're already a day ahead all of a sudden. And
Uh,
Nathan says, yeah.
okay. As much as I love my favorite couple, Naylee,
Hmm.
I don't love this.
How he kind of yells at her about Lucas needing to mind his own business.
No, isn't this where he talks about his heart rate?
Oh, yeah, because he to cover up the fact that his heart was racing from the drugs.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is what I don't like is
Hmm.
that, we know
Hmm.
that in the future they have to like make it all cutesy.
Hmm.
And, because it comes back around. And obviously later on, it's cute. Like
Hmm.
when she says it to him
Hmm.
because she's not doing drugs. But here it's not cute. And this is why I'm just like, okay, certain things should not come back around like
Right.
this. I'm
Mhm.
like, he's not saying it because that's how he feels. He's saying it
Mhm.
to cover up his heart rate.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm like, she's not what's making his heart like that. I'm like,
Right.
so when they replay it in the future,
Mhm.
I roll my eyes because I'm like, it's not something that is true.
Right.
There's even things on Facebook of like, oh, look at the parallels. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm like, Nathan, this is not how he felt. He was on freaking
Mhm.
drugs, people.
Yeah, because like I seen that part and using edits and everything for them too,
Yes.
so it shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
count.
That's what
Mhm.
I get the whole you gave me everything and all
Mhm.
of that. And I get that, but I don't get this, this, you make my heart, whatever. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I don't
And he puts
understand
her hand over
that.
his chest. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand this parallel and all of this to the future
Mhm.
because it's not how he felt. And
Yeah.
if you're the writer, you would know that that's not how he felt.
Mhm. Yeah, because I put what a nice save to distract that his body's reacting to the drug.
Well, because she says, like,
Mhm.
she even kind of like brings it up, and it's like,
Yeah.
then he has to cover it up. And I'm like,
Mhm.
whatever, Nathan, you know that's not how you feel.
Yeah.
Again, I'm just saying I don't like the parallel to the future.
Right. Yeah. And then he asks if they're going to her house tonight for tutoring, and Haley once again asks if he's okay, and he says he's fine. He just had a bad day yesterday, and after Haley's out of sight, he takes another pill. So this is the second pill he's taken now within a couple of days of each other. So I
Well,
mean,
it
it's
didn't you say it's the next day?
yeah.
So,
So he took one yesterday and took one today. So
and um, Tim said to kind of, go
hmm
easy with it.
yeah.
Hmm.
But he's like, Brooke doesn't really listen when it comes to medication or drugs. And then Whitey goes to see Dan after the dealership, and Dan asks him if he's there to lecture him or argue. He gets enough of that at home with his wife.
Um, isn't this where he tells Whitey like you happened
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
about Nathan? And I'm just like, because once again, Dan is making another person feel like they're the ones that are ruining Nathan
Right. Yeah.
instead of just being like, it's you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, it can't be Lucas, it can't be Deb, and it can't be
Mm-hmm.
Whitey. It's gotta
Yeah.
be you.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one person.
Yeah. Because Dan gave him the list of putting Lucas on the team, gave away his position, took him off the team bus 30 miles away from home,
But
and
it
now
was
he's
funny because he
yeah.
said, when he says, "Oh, now all of a sudden you
Yeah.
care," like
Mm-hmm.
especially when he brought up kicking him off the bus miles away from
Mm-hmm.
home, I was like, that is true. Because like Whitey didn't care that he did that
Right.
to the boys.
Yeah.
So I agree with that part, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
agree with everything else.
Right.
And two, about Lucas giving him the spot on the team.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask any coach that wants to win, they are going to put the best person in that position.
Right.
If you even if that's been your spot for 3 years, guess what? If somebody new comes along, they will give that spot away. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because they want to win.
Yeah.
That's any coach that wants to win. Now, there are some that are loyal and are like, I'll put you in this spot and we will lose. But because I've given you this spot for 3 years, there are some that are loyal, but those are the ones that also probably lose. But given how Whitey wants to win, that's just the name of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you have to practice and beat, and kind of like outbeat everyone in order to keep your spot.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes with a lot of dedication and everything. So, it's like that point I get, like if Lucas at that point was better. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying that he was, but if he was, I get that giving it his spot because again, just because that's your spot doesn't mean that's where you should play,
Mm-hmm.
so I agree with Whitey and giving the best person on the team the spot.
Right.
Um, but I also But I disagree with Dan. But I do agree with Dan in this where talks about Whitey kicking him off the bus because
Right.
that was wrong on every level.
Yeah.
I mean, who kicks teenagers off? Like, you could have just separated them or something. Like, I don't
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
I didn't agree with the kicking him off the bus.
Hmm.
I feel like there could have been other punishments besides that.
Yeah. Like, doing hard, I don't know, drills or whatever at the next practice or something,
Or giving
you
them
know?
community service.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know, but
Hmm.
something besides kicking them off where they could go into danger?
Yeah, or like clean the gym or something,
Yeah,
the locker
community
rooms.
service.
And then tells Dan, like, did he forget about pressuring him and belittling him? Of course, that happens at home, right? And then he says he remembers when Dan went to him. He was a scrawny freshman with a hell of a jump shot, and Dan loved the game. And then he asks
That
Dan
kind of
what
looks
happened
like
on the way.
Nathan
Yeah.
because Nathan is skinny
Hmm. And Dan,
and like when he was saying that, I was like, that's Nathan.
hmm and then Dan says Whitey happened. There was always something he could do to pick apart, something that wasn't good enough, but he's right, he did love the game. He despised the way Whitey controlled it.
Well, then he said you might want to change so that Nathan doesn't despise you like you
Right.
do to me.
Hmm. Yeah, because he's a controlling one now.
Oh my God, okay. So you know how bad it is for Nathan, right?
Hmm.
Being Dan's son.
Hmm.
Could you imagine if Nathan was a girl? Like, how do you think that would have worked?
I don't know.
Because it's like, I think Dan was like, I have a son. I'm going to put all this pressure on him and he has to be the best. And
Yeah.
and he'll never be the best though, but he just needs to be the best. It's like, what would he have done if he had a girl?
Maybe he actually would have claimed Lucas and had him be the basketball player.
He would have been like, sorry, Deb, you're having a
Hmm.
girl.
Yeah.
I'll go back to Karen who has the boy.
Yeah. Or that, or either try to have another kid and have it be a boy this time with Ted.
But it's like, what pressure would he have put on his daughter,
I don't
given
know.
how much pressure he puts on Nathan? I just wonder. Like, I'm
Hmm.
curious about that. It's like, or would he not have cared at all? He would have been like, whatever.
I don't know. Maybe more academic pressure. I don't know.
Or maybe would he have just like flung money around like Brooke, like Brooke's
Hmm.
parents do?
Yeah. Not pay attention to her.
Yeah, it's like, I'll just give you money and, go away.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's like, I do wonder what would have happened if it was a girl. Because obviously, once he found out it was a boy, it's like game over
Hmm.
for either boy.
Yeah. So Whitey told Dan that it would be a shame if he learned to hate that person that he hates as
Yeah,
well.
I said
Yeah.
that.
And then that's when Dan said that Casey didn't tell Nathan that he's not that someone shine if they lost the next game. And Whitey just takes a sip of his coffee. Or I mean Dan does. And then Lucas finds Nathan in the gym and he mentions practice the other day. Nathan says Whitey deserved it.
But then Lucas asked about the team that they're going up
Hmm.
against.
Yeah.
Um, Nathan said they suck.
Yeah. So you think he wouldn't need a drug.
If they suck so bad.
Hmm.
No, yeah, but he's only doing it because he's on drugs, and that's just Nathan.
Hmm.
Like Nathan just thinks everyone sucks.
Hmm.
Uh oh, by the way, did you see who they're playing against?
No, just Cove City.
I heard the Cavaliers.
Oh yeah, I wrote that somewhere. Yeah. Yep, I know what you mean.
Mhm.
And then
It's
yeah,
inside joke for Cynthia and I.
hmm. And then Lucas tells Nathan he knows that has a lot of pressure from Dan. Nathan says he doesn't know anything about his dad. And that maybe if he knocked a shot every now and then he wouldn't have to carry the team.
Do you like Nathan going back to old Nathan?
No, no, not at all.
I mean, I like when he goes at Dan,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't like how he treats everyone else. Like, I
Right.
love the way he treats Dan when he's old Nathan,
Mhm.
but I like new Nathan.
Right. And then outside of school, Brooke gives Lucas a book back and tells him she finished it, so now it's her turn.
How do we know she just didn't read the back of the book
Right. Yeah, I wonder that too.
or the last like chapter, how
Mhm.
it ends?
Yeah. Yeah, because when Lucas asks Brooke if she liked the book, she asks, did she like it or read it? She says the book is about how a guy loses his integrity and gives into temptation. And she has that's exactly what she sees him doing tonight with her. So she brought it back to them, not really too much in the book.
I would have quizzed her.
Right.
I'd have been like, if I have to do all this stuff, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna quiz you.
Yeah. And then Brooke and Lucas are at a bar playing pool later that night. And Brooke gives fake ideas to the waitress and she thanks them and calls them Gretchen and Henry. Now, yeah, I thought of that too. I'm like,
Cynthia.
did they get the names from Dawson's Creek or
When she said, when the
hmm
waitress said Henry and Gretchen, as soon
hmm
as she said Henry, I was like, where's Henry at?
right. Did you
And then
notice
she
that until
said,
now or
what?
did you not notice that until now?
Well, what? When I watched it and she said Henry and Gretchen, I started laughing. I was like, where's Henry and Gretchen?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. No, obviously the first time when I watched this, no, I didn't, because I didn't watch Dawson's Creek.
Okay.
I watched One Tree Hill first. That's
Okay.
why some of this crap didn't make any sense to me,
Okay.
like all the references. But then when I watched it, one
Mm-hmm.
or Dawson's Creek, again, I don't remember this particular scene.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the pilot where Haley talks about
Mm-hmm.
or Dawson's Creek, but so I remember that,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't remember this, the
Right.
fake IDs. I
Mm-hmm.
remember they went to the bar and got fake IDs, but I didn't remember the names. I mean, because it's a very little thing for the whole
Right.
one, all 9 seasons. You want me to remember their names?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but no, now coming from Dawson's Creek to One Tree Hill, it is the funniest thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, too bad we didn't hear last names with those.
Oh, I know. What was Henry's last name?
I don't know, but it still would have been funny anyhow. Yeah, so apparently Brooke had to use Lucas's yearbook photo for his ID. I don't know if how that could really pass for a fake ID, but
I think it would have been more funny if it would have been like Dawson and Joey.
yeah. Or Dawson and Jen, maybe.
Yeah, but
Yes.
Brooke has dark hair like Joey.
Yeah, I just thought personality wise, Jen would have
No,
fit
and I
better.
thought it would have been funny for Chad
Yeah.
because he was very involved with Joey.
Yeah.
I mean, he was with Jen at first, but
hmm
but funny.
Right. Yeah,
But
so
yes,
apparently
I do wonder too. Did they get
hmm
that from a little show called Dawson's Creek?
right. Yeah, so apparently Brooke is really good at pool. It's making all these shots. And she tells Lucas there's a lot of things about her he doesn't know.
Well, she loves beating boys at pool.
hmm Yeah, so she says a couple things while she's still playing, including the pool part, beating boys. Yeah, so Brooke tells Lucas that he's the most serious guy she's ever met, and to show that he's not, he takes a sip of beer and asks if that makes her happy, and she says a little. Then he asks if they're even now, and Brooke tells him that this isn't a thing that he has to do for her to make them even. And then at Nathan is at Haley's house now, She's on her computer. He's looking at the pictures on her walls.
So yeah, apparently she got all these brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we know that only half of that is true.
Um, so he wants to start making out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, then it just, turns because he wants to do more than that.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that Haley stopped him.
Yeah, me too.
She didn't feel the pressure to continue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it makes you think what he, was doing with Peyton.
Yeah, but Peyton allowed it.
Yeah, but maybe she didn't really want to do it. She just thought she
She
had
then
to.
then she allowed it. She should have said no like Haley and get out, but she didn't.
Maybe she just didn't have the courage to do that.
Um, but okay, so then Nathan's like, because she said, you need to leave and stuff. And he was like, we could study, it's fine. And then she was like, no, like, go. And he was
Mm-hmm.
like, unbelievable. I'm like, what? Like,
Yeah.
Nathan, you're the one that was forcing
Mm-hmm.
yourself. And it's like, no, like, she should have just ended it right there.
Yeah.
It's like, I wouldn't have talked to you again. Would you have talked to him again?
No. And then Peyton is working on a drawing at her house. And it might be the same one from before, or she started over from scratch, but it's the same illustration of her and Lucas from the night at the basketball party when they were about to have sex, and Payne's response to Lucas saying he wanted this for so long. And she responds in the illustration, and now they can have it. So now it seems like she's ready for something. And she looks at her phone to check if there's any missed calls from him, but sees nothing. So she puts it back down and goes back to drawing.
Well, why would there be? She just wants to be friends with him.
Yeah, she just thought maybe he would call to check up on her or something. And then Brooke and Lucas are at the bar, and Lucas is drinking when Brooke asks if he liked Weird Science. It's a movie from 1985. They quote lines from it to each other. And then Peyton is calling Lucas. He sees it says out of area, so he forwards the call to voicemail. And then Brooke asks if it's a booty call, and Lucas asks where were they, and she asks if he's having fun. He says yes. And then she asks what his take on tattoos are. Yes. And he says he doesn't know. It depends.
What was her tattoo of?
It was just a Chinese symbol. She didn't
Here we
say what
are
it
with the
was.
Chinese. Here we are
Yeah,
with Chinese
after, yeah.
symbol.
Hmm.
Did they get that from Dawson's Creek too?
I don't know. Maybe that just seemed to be like a popular thing at the time too to do. Yeah, but she actually revealed it to him. They were alone, but she still revealed it to him in a public place like that because it's on her bikini line. And then he says tattoos are very sexy, and they start making out. And then Lucas finally gets home to Keith in the kitchen.
Drunk. Okay, so
Mhm.
I love how Keith is waiting up for him like a dad
Mhm.
and gets all mad at him. And was like, are you drunk?
Mhm.
And of course he is.
And then he tells Keith that there was a girl, and Keith says, like like his old man wouldn't have let him, just come home like that. And he tells Lucas he was worried sick, and he tells him to sleep it off and they'll deal with it tomorrow. And then next morning at Nathan asks how Dan's doing, who's reading the paper in the kitchen. Dan tells Nathan be serious because a big game is coming up, and he tells
Um,
Nathan
well, I don't like what Dan says to Nathan.
about his
Because it's
record.
like, well, he says, you think you're gonna break my scoring record. And then he laughs. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
here we are. Like, it's so annoying. Like, just knock it off.
Mm-hmm. And then Keith walks into Lucas's room to tell him he's going to be late for school.
Well,
And Lucas,
I did like when um Keith said, your ass is grounded. after seeing the tattoo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when Lucas shows Keith that he got a similar tattoo to Brooke on his arm, it's pretty big on his shoulder, and Keith tells Lucas, to tell him it's a joke and to wipe it off. It's one of those tattoos from the fake ones from like the little 25-cent machines or something like that. And nope, it's real.
Okay, but then when he says you're grounded, it was funny because he said bread and water.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny.
Yeah. Yeah, Lucas says it's supposed to be a symbol for fun, but of course it doesn't have to, usually doesn't mean what you think it is. Because the producers for the Drama Queens podcast told Hillary that Lucas's tattoo was supposed to mean fun in Chinese, but in reality it meant the word have in Mandarin. So not even like a actual real word. Have tattoo at least. And then Sophia said that they gave Brooke a tattoo to make Lucas get a tattoo because Chad had one on his shoulder and they had trouble covering up with makeup, so they needed the excuse for Lucas to wear a bandage on his arm for basketball.
Yeah, I knew that part.
Mm-hmm.
Did he have one on Dawson's Creek?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't remember either. Like, he must have then just got it after if he didn't have one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So Keith says that what he's been doing is crap. He's out half the night. He's drunk, has a tattoo. Actually, he joined the Navy too. And he tells Lucas he took advantage of him because he never would have pulled this stunt with his mom if she were there. And Lucas says he's just enjoying himself for once. And then that's when he learned that he's grounded. And then at school, Haley asks what Lucas did last night. He says nothing. Asks her what she did, and she says nothing too. Then Lucas admits he made out with Brooke while drunk and that they just went out like as friends, but it escalated.
I like that we're seeing the two of them eating together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, now that they're with other people, you would think they wouldn't have those times.
Yeah. Lucas says that Brooke is different from what people see. Her of all people should understand that.
Well, it's funny because she goes, "What about Peyton?" And he goes, "You can make out with her too."
Mm-hmm.
When she said that she is making out with Nathan.
Yeah. And that's when Lucas said like if he told her not to do that anymore, would she listen? She says maybe, and then it's either they say probably not.
Neither one of them would listen if they both told each other to stop it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Lucas reminds Haley that he told Peyton how he felt. And she doesn't feel the same way. Haley says maybe she's just not ready, and Lucas says she just wants to be friends.
Yeah, because she's not ready.
Mm-hmm.
She never said she didn't like him.
Right. So Haley asks if he and Brooke are a thing now. He says no and laughs. He says they went out and had fun. And Haley says
Here's
that
that
that's
word.
what he wants.
Here's that word fun again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she tells him he deserves to be happy, and he says her too. And then Brooke finds Peyton at a table and joins her. He tells her to guess who she went out with last night. Tells her it was Lucas. And Payne says Define went out. So Brooke tells her that they met at a bar, shot pool, had a few drinks. Payne is surprised Lucas did all that. Brooke says Peyton didn't tell her Lucas was such a good kisser, and Payne looks like she doesn't know how to respond to that, so she just looks at Brooke until she says she has to go.
Yeah, but you could see on Peyton's face it hurt her.
Mm-hmm. And then Deb meets Dan at a vacant location.
Oh my God. Of course Dan would do this.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, "What are we doing here?" And he was like, "Just think of it. Deb's Diner." It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God. And of course, and what I don't understand is what doesn't he get of she's helping Karen for 6 weeks?
Right. Not
She's not
forever.
she's not doing this because she wants her own diner.
Mm-hmm.
She's doing this to help for 6 weeks because Karen is out of town.
Mm-hmm.
Like what does I don't get this. Like why he thinks her helping Karen means she wants her own place. I don't know
Yeah,
how that equals that.
Right. Well, I see it too that he just maybe like wants her to not have anything to do with Karen. So he's trying to give her her own thing so she won't want to help Karen anymore. And maybe he wants Karen's business to go out of business too. So
Well,
trying to destroy her.
I know he's trying to pull her away from Karen, but she's
Mm-hmm.
only helping for 6 weeks. She never said she wanted a partnership with Karen
Mm-hmm.
because then I could see like, okay, you want to go into business with her.
Mm-hmm.
No. And here's your own business. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I could see that, but she's only helping her.
Mm-hmm.
She never said this is what she wants. I'm like, what doesn't he get out of that?
Mm-hmm.
And then here she even says it like, that's not what I want.
Right.
I'm like, he just doesn't get it.
And then Deb asks Dan, what does he feel when he sees Lucas? It was different when they never saw him, but now Dan says, like, what does she want from him? And she says anything, something honest. And then Dan says when he was a kid, he made a decision and he's tired of her and everyone else holding it over his head every day of his life. So if
Well,
she's
that's
running the cafe, she can find absolution from him. She can forget it.
well, that's the thing is like, you really want honesty from Dan.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody really wants honesty because he's normally being honest.
Right.
That's why he's always an ass because he doesn't shut up when he should.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like he is being honest. Every time he does something or says something, like that's him being honest. That's just who he is. Like, what don't you get out of that either?
Right.
We know what he thinks of Karen. We know what he thinks of Lucas
Mm-hmm. Well, he doesn't really talk that much about Lucas, so
because he
that's
doesn't
why.
like him and he doesn't care. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's the truth. Like, what else are you going to get out of him? He doesn't like the kid.
Yeah, I don't know, just maybe him explaining his
He
emotions
he
towards him.
he wishes Lucas didn't exist. Like that's his honesty.
Mm-hmm. And then at the tutoring center, Peyton meets Haley to talk, or unless she was already there for tutoring for something else, I guess.
It looked like she was just kind of studying.
Yeah,
Um,
that's probably allowed there.
so they talk about Brooke, and
Mm-hmm.
Peyton says she's not really the dating kind
Mm-hmm.
because Haley's like, oh, like how do you feel? And I'm like, mm, I mean, you can change. So if you're not the dating kind, but you find someone that you really like, you could change. You know what I mean? And Brooke
Mm-hmm.
seems very invested with Lucas.
Mm-hmm. And then
But
Peyton
also,
acts.
but also
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like, is this something you should really say about your best friend?
Right.
Like in how she said it, it was like, it wasn't like a nice way, you know? It was kind
Mm-hmm.
of like a jealousy. She's not, I don't know. I didn't like how she said it.
Or maybe.
It just didn't come off right.
Mm-hmm. And then Peyton asks how things are going with Haley and Nathan, and Haley says not so great. She doesn't know if they're a couple or just hanging out, if it's for sex, because if it is, it's not enough for her. And then Peyton asks if Haley had a bad experience. Haley simply smiles at Peyton, and Peyton figures out, she's a virgin. And Haley says, yeah, she is. So what if she is? And Peyton says, good for her. And then Peyton asks Haley what she's going to do, and she says, try to get some answers. And then Peyton did ask Haley, too, if Lucas had mentioned what happened between them. And Haley just tells Peyton that Lucas told her she wasn't ready for a relationship. So it was nice to see them together in this scene as friends because they haven't really spoken much since the road trip. And then at Lucas's house, Keith hands Lucas some tape for his tattoo because he has to cover up for the game.
Yeah, that's where it's infected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then
It's
he
like
said,
red.
well, and then he said, where'd you get the tattoo?
Yeah. He said in a back alley in the Philippines, which was out of pocket there and that was unnecessary. And then he
Right.
yells at Lucas, saying he could get hepatitis or HIV from this. And then he asks if it hurts, and Lucas says a little. And Keith tells
Well,
him to get checked out before the game.
yeah, I mean, then he said, I gotta worry once for me and once for your mom.
Mm-hmm.
Cause like
Yeah,
Lucas is like, why are you
yeah,
like being so like uptight, blah blah. It's like he
yeah,
has to be.
yeah. He doesn't have
Like
to worry so much. He tells him, yeah.
yeah, but like he's the one that's in charge right now. He has to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, then we go to the Scott house.
Yeah. Yeah, so Nathan's working out. Dan comments that Nathan's arms are going to be dead for the game tonight.
Well, so Deb tells Nathan that she won't be at the game because she'll be at the cafe, but Haley will be there.
Yeah.
And he's like, whatever. And then Dan is like, at least one of us will be there.
Yeah.
Here we are acting like he's the best father in the world.
Mm-hmm. And the record was brought up again too. Dan says he doesn't think Nathan will beat it. And Nathan says he'll see.
Now, here's the thing is if I was Haley, I wouldn't want to go to the game to see Nathan.
Right.
So shouldn't she have let his mother go?
Yeah.
I would have. I would have been like, no, you should go see your son play. I know you like, I mean, Deb has missed a lot of his games. She should go, and Haley should be the one to stay back. So, and plus, she's in this fight with Nathan. She needs to stay back. I'm just saying, like, if I was Haley, I would let Deb go.
Yeah, but I guess Haley still wants to talk to Nathan because then she goes up to him at school. He doesn't want to talk to her right now. Haley says that maybe after the game they can talk, and Nathan says again he doesn't want to talk to her. He's all stressed out about the game.
So let Deb go.
And then later that night at the game, Mouth is once again the announcer by himself. Nathan makes a basket with just one basket away from his dad's record. And just as Nathan is close to making it, he runs into a player from the other team, knocking him down and making the basket, but the referee doesn't count it for the move. Nathan tries to defend to the ref what he did, and the ref tells Wyatt to watch his boy. So Nathan's on the bench, and Wyatt tells him he doesn't care how many points he has. If Nathan keeps this up, he'll move him so far down the bench he'll have to pump air into him. And Lucas and Nathan just look at each other. So then it's time to go back to the game, and Nathan tells them to give him the ball.
So Lucas, he gets the ball. And then he falls.
Yep, collapses.
As he faints, yeah. I mean, how much did he take?
Right.
I mean, it was game day. He probably took the rest of it, I feel like.
Yeah, at least one or two more. And then Tim gets Tim first, waving Whitey over. Lucas joins him along with the other guys on the team. And then later on, Nathan wakes up in the hospital. Dan is there.
Of course, Dan's there. Son.
And like how he was brushing, like with his finger brushing his hair. Yeah.
I'm like, oh, he's got a little caring side.
Yeah, so he tells him that, once he wakes up, he tells Nathan that he's okay.
And about his scoring record, nobody will care. I'm like, your son collapsed on the floor, and that's all you can say to him. Like, this is a serious matter, and yet that's all you can think of is your son's scoring record. And who's going to care?
When did he say that? After the doctor?
Well, he's talking to Nathan. And he tells him, well, it's like when he wakes up and he's like, oh, nobody will care about what happened. And I'm like,
because I remember he said the scouts won't remember.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just like, it's so annoying. Like, that's all you care about. But I did like when the doctor came in and he was like, so what did you take? And he's going through all of these drugs. And then Dan was like, he's an athlete, not a druggie.
Yeah.
And then they're in the hallway, Dan and the doctor. And Dan goes on. And then, of course, he threatens the doctor with a lawsuit. Like, if he makes him a druggie, like on the record.
Yeah, so he believes Nathan. If he says he's clean, he's clean.
But the tests don't lie.
Right.
When they run them.
Yeah, he just tells the doctor to do his job to get Nathan well again, and he'll do the rest.
Yeah, he'll do the rest all right.
So then Haley rushes to Karen's cafe because she remembered Deb would be there. She was on her way to go check on Nathan. And she asks how he's doing, and Deb says who, because she was saying him and he this whole time. And Haley says, Nathan. And Deb says, what about him? And then back at the hospital, Dan's on the phone with Keith, thanking him. And Dan asks how Nathan is doing. And he finds Nathan's empty bed. So he somehow walked out and
Perfectly
out of the
fine.
room. Yeah, without Dan knowing. And then Deb walks
Well,
in.
that was the thing was Dan stepped right out of his, it's not even a room.
Room. Yeah.
It wasn't even a room.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, how do you not see a person leave?
Right.
It was really weird. I'm like, that was bad. It's
Mm-hmm.
not, they should have stepped like around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
It was just really bad how they filmed it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, well, and then you feel bad for Deb because it's like she just got to the hospital. She has no idea what's going on. Like,
Mm-hmm.
gotta feel for her.
Yeah. And then Nathan's not even there anymore.
So she really doesn't know where her baby is.
Mm-hmm. And then Whitey's office, he marks the last game with a W, so they still won after Nathan was out of the game.
That was my thing. I'm like, so okay, so this whole time of how Nathan needed to get the most points and all of this, as if this team is bad, right? That they're playing against
Right.
because he needed to take drugs. It's like you ended up winning without Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't get it.
Yeah, unless all those points that he got helped him win. But yeah.
But I'm like, is Nathan then the greatest? Like, I don't know because they won that last game when the boys were kicked out.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like, is the team okay without Nathan? Because it seems like they are.
Right.
But Whitey does say um, he'll forfeit a game before he loses a boy to
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. So then him and Whitey have that whiskey that he has. I mean, Whitey has the whiskey. And at home, Dan tells Deb he tried to call her, but she didn't answer her
Well,
phone.
okay, when did he call her though? Because she says, "Well, I was on my way to the hospital," but I'm like, you were on your way after Haley told you. He didn't call you right after. I was like, "What are
Right.
you talking about, Dan? Like yeah, you called her how long after?"
Mm-hmm.
It was like really stupid. And she even like says that, like, how long?
Mm-hmm.
20, 30 minutes? And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yep.
And Dan says his first concern was for Nathan and she's overreacting.
Did you hear Dan call Deb lady?
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
listen, lady. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And he calls
Okay.
Karen that woman.
Yeah. So, um, but I did love the ending of the scene when she tells Dan to leave
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, this is my house. And she was like, fine, I'll leave, but Nathan's coming with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so then she again told him to leave. So he does, or well, then he tells her too, like, you think Nathan is gonna pick you to live with and not me? And I'm like, I don't know. Deb doesn't pressure him like you do. So
Right.
possibly
Mm-hmm.
a normal person would pick Deb.
Yeah.
Um, and then okay, but I love what Deb says to Dan because she told him to leave and she said, or so help me, I will stab you in your sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my God, I love it.
Yeah.
She's a little feisty.
Yeah. And at Haley's, she calls Nathan, but it goes to voicemail. And as she's talking to the machine, she says she's worried about him and hates the way they end of things. And then that's when he walks in and says he does too.
Mhm.
He explains
Okay,
nobody. Hmm.
did you like agree with him? Like, did you believe him when he said, um, when he when he was on the ground or whatever, like all he could think of was um talking to her and if she would forgive him.
Yeah, I think so.
Wait, you believed him? I thought the dude
Yeah.
was knocked out.
Well, there was some time before he became unconscious, so maybe he thought he was dying in the moment. That's when he was regretting everything that he did when it
Yeah,
came to
but
her.
I don't know if in that moment you're even really truly thinking. Like when you're going out, like
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that that's what he was thinking. I think maybe when he was in the hospital, and he's lying there trying not to listen to Dan, I think that he was starting to regret everything, but because you could see it on his face. But I don't think in that moment on the court that he really was thinking too much because he was
Depending
thinking
on how
about the
much.
game and trying to stay alive
Mm-hmm.
and trying to score. That's what was on
Yeah.
his mind.
Well, he says he saw her too, so that's why he was thinking about her in the
Verily.
stands. Yeah, you never know. Depends on how much time he had before he became unconscious.
I just don't believe it. I think it was a way to suck up at the end.
Well, his voice was hoarse and cracking, so I think he was really sorry.
Yeah, he was in the hospital thinking of his regrets and how he treated her. But I was happy that he did go to her at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So if her parents are out of town, why has
Mm-hmm.
she got to shut the door?
It was just like to show the audience, like maybe will they or won't they sleep together,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
So then we see on the door. Was it the door at the gym? Gym doors? Where it
Oh,
said
well,
basketball canceled until further notice.
right.
I was like, ooh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's like, why do you might have quit his job or something? But before that, Peyton shows up at Lucas's house because she heard about Nathan, and Lucas says he's going to be okay. And that's when she tells him that she made a mistake, and she said that when he said he wanted to be with her, she got scared and she pushed
Yeah,
him
now she
away.
wants them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, it's like at this point, it's like Brooke is going after him.
Mm-hmm.
Eh, It's like you had your choice or your chance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, did I like Brooke going after him when Peyton liked him? No. But it's like now you're seeing Brooke really invested with him. Now you want to take him away?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I was on her side, but it's like you can really tell Brooke likes him.
Mm-hmm.
So Peyton, I mean, especially if Peyton believes that Brooke isn't that kind of girl, the dating kind, the
Mm-hmm.
relationship kind, then
Mm-hmm.
you'll know that just let it run its course.
Yeah.
And then when they break up or whatever, then
Mm-hmm.
you can have them. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if you believe with your heart that they're not going to make it,
Mm-hmm.
then let them run its course. Like, why do you
Yeah.
have to get involved?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's what she should do. That's what I would do. I'd be like, I'll let you have them because
Mm-hmm.
I know it ain't going to last.
Yeah, because that's when Brooke walks in and calls him a superstar and asks if he's ready to score. And that's when Brooke sees Payne and says, hey, like kind of a awkward hey. And she tells Payne that they missed her at the game tonight. And that's when Payne turns around to walk out and Lucas calls out her name. And then Brooke looks at Lucas like it finally clicked that Lucas and Payne like each other. And then we see the quick scene where Dan is walking out with the bag. Deb watches him go. And then back at Haley's, Haley and Nathan just stopped kissing and Haley gets up. Oh yeah, that's when she closed the door. Yep. And then back at Lucas's, Payne is still looking at him and he's looking at her. Lucas is narrating. Brooke is looking at him. Lucas looks at her. Just a lot of staring back and forth.
Yeah.
Brooke and Payne look at each other, and then Lucas's narration ends, and that's the end of the episode.
So, what was your high and low?
Um, the low was Nathan collapsing, and the high was Nathan going to Haley and telling her that he's sorry. And yours?
Same thing. And then what would you rate it?
Like a 7.
I did 7.5.
Hmm. And then worst
Um,
and best.
yeah, so for me, my worst was Dan. Hmm. I
Right. Yeah,
mean,
me
okay, I
too.
had some others.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like Nathan being rude to everybody when he's taking the drugs, like that's on him. Um, but I didn't like Brooke either, kind of in her own way making Lucas drink. And then
Mm-hmm.
it was her idea for him to get a tattoo. Like, that's permanent.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't like that. I mean, so there was a couple worse on my list.
Mm-hmm.
But I went with Dan because he made Nathan feel the pressure and that he has to beat him or else, and which made him take the drugs. So, yeah, Dan was just the worst. Plus, he was just mean to everybody again.
Mm-hmm.
And then the best, I picked Haley because if it wasn't for Haley, Deb wouldn't know that her son went to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And in turn, yelling, then she wouldn't have yelled at Dan and then kicked him out. It's like all of that would not have happened if
Yeah.
Haley didn't go to her. So, yeah, I thought Haley was the best in that. What about you? Plus, she was there for Peyton when I think Peyton needed a friend.
Yeah. Yeah, mine are the same too. Where's Dan, Bess, Haley, and also the fact that she stood up for herself when it came to Nathan, when he was pressuring her and pushing her. So,
Yep.
mm-hmm.
All right. And then what's the next episode?
Episode 10, You Gotta Go There to Come Back. So now we'll be in 2004 already.
Oh, Christmas has passed. All right. Thanks for listening.
Yep, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of Duo Chat. If you want to chime in with your opinion about the episode and the show we discussed, you can email us at duochatpodcast@gmail.com. And to keep up with updates about the podcast, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube at Duo Chat Podcast. And give us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. We would appreciate it.